In crypto, do your own research is everywhere. But what happens when the truth is hard to find? Today, we're joined by journalist and podcast host Catherine Ross-Mychka to unpack the responsibility of media, the rise of misinformation, and what DYOR really means in a world flooded with noise. Welcome, Catherine.
Hi. Wow, so serious. So much responsibility. Hi. Is there a save the world of crypto journalism in there somewhere? Sorry. I was just,
Yeah, you're good to say that.
so much responsibility. Hi again. Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored. Thank you for your time. And it's actually a little bit conventional for me because I usually on the other side, right? Getting those interviews, asking the questions. So it's supposed to be fun.
I know it's nice to have you on the hot seat, right?
Yeah.
So let's just start off with like your professional background and how you got to where you are.
Yeah. So as you've said correctly, I am a journalist, writer, editor, podcast, and event host with over 8 years of experience in crypto journalism, which honestly sounds like a lifetime. Seriously, it's like 8 years is, yeah. Whew. My previous roles, and I'm going to read this out loud because it's very hard to talk about myself. So my previous roles were deputy editor-in-chief at Cointelegraph.com, managing editor and podcast host at Benzinga, crypto managing editor, and also international business managing editor, never mind, and editorial director and chief strategy officer at crypto.news. Also, there were a lot of other projects that I helped build and try to, and I'm going to touch this while we speak a little bit, but I had to step down and never talked about this specifically for the reasons we're going to be discussing today. So yeah, some of them I never name.
Ooh, I'm very curious now, you know.
Is this a good lead? Are people
Oh, yes, it is. Yeah, hook this in. Like I still remember when I first got into crypto, like, everyone was saying like, oh, don't click any links and DYOR. Does the constant reminder to DYOR suggest that crypto journalism itself isn't fully trusted?
That's such a huge topic. The thing is that I'd like to double check being a journalist. What do you mean by the do your own research line? Because from where I stand, we use this line mainly in the disclaimers, right? So whenever you're writing an article and it's very, it's dangerous. It's a dangerous territory. Whenever you're writing an article that might be considered financial advice, we would put a disclaimer, and that would have a line: crypto is very risky. You might lose all of your assets. So do your own research before making a financial decision. And trust me, if somebody who worked with me is listening to this, they know the pain behind all of those disclaimers because I used to be talking about them 24/7 because like it's very important for us to put this disclaimer: do your own research before making any financial decisions because literally your money, your life depends on it. So that's where, in my experience, we usually use this line as journalists, right? But I see a lot of crypto brands, companies, right, products use this line as well. But I think it means that, with all the information that you have, right? Here's the information that we as journalists present to you. This is our job to inform, but it's your job to make a decision because as journalists, we're not supposed to be giving you advice and we're not supposed to make you in any way make this financial decision. That's actually the opposite of crypto journalism, right? Our job is to inform, sometimes to criticize, but we're also going to touch on this. But our job is to literally try to prevent you from investing or making a mistake, to inform so you could make a decision. And if you put this out of the financial journalism context, which I think crypto journalism is safe to say right now is a part of financial journalism. I'd like to think so because it's like, it's a huge part of the financial industry, right? And a major win for crypto because it is now a part of financial industry. And so if you take this out of context, if we're talking about political journalism, whatever you read, and you could read, if we're talking about the U.S. politics, touchy subject, I know, but I'm gonna be cautious, I swear. And so you read something from the Democratic Party and from the Republican Party, or from what people say left or right wing journalism, and you make your own decision on who to vote, right? So that's
Yeah.
the same. You do your own research, you see what candidates are offering in political journalism, and you go with your gut in the end, right? And with what you prefer. The same thing goes to financial journalism, but it's very problematic for me because, you know, always do your own research. But crypto journalism is not about making you do any sort of investment decision because that's actually against the law. And that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
Journalism is not supposed to make you make financial decisions. That's it. Did I answer
Absolutely.
your
Yeah,
question?
no, absolutely. You nailed it.
Thank you.
Because I still remember in spaces, and very ssimilarly to how you use DYOR, which is, almost like a disclaimer. But most of the time we also say things like, okay, this is not financial advice, right?
Mhm.
Um, just to have those disclaimers out, right? But sometimes people also use that as a way to almost be a little bit flippant in a sense
Oh yeah.
where, asking people to just, yeah, I'm not going to talk about it, but so you do your own research.
Hmm.
But sometimes, yeah, everyone should DYOR, but then what if they don't know what to DYOR, right? So, it's a,
Yeah.
that's a, it's a fine balance, I think. And
Let me
so,
just
yeah, go ahead.
sorry to interrupt. Let me just add a little bit and to kind of clarify.
Yeah,
Sally, here's
yeah,
this. It is a disclaimer. It is, and a lot of people outside of crypto media use this phrase literally every single day on every crypto podcast or on Twitter or X or anywhere else because this is
yeah,
the way to protect yourself. Hey, I'm not giving you financial advice. You should you make your own decision. But in
mhm,
crypto, it is for me, as a person who works in crypto journalism, it's very important to put that disclaimer to remind you. And it's not going to be only one and only one phrase. It's going to be crypto trading is risky. You might lose all of your assets. Please consider doing your own research and making your own decision before investing your money. And that's going to be 3 or 4 sentences. I know it's long, but it's very important for us to remind you that first, yeah, sorry, the first phrase is going to be this is not financial advice. And that's the truth because this is information, this is news or features or any other format, but it is not financial. It's not supposed to be. And especially in the most hated by me formats about markets, or most specifically articles. Why is crypto up today? Why is crypto down today? Right? Or why
yeah,
is this crypto trending? I hate those, and everybody who knows me knows this as well. I literally I loathe them. I loathe this kind of content because this is not journalism. And the truth is, guys, a lot of the times nobody knows why. That's the truth because a lot of
yeah,
whales or market makers or liquidity providers have bought in and they need to liquidate them or vice
yeah.
versa or they're buying in. That's the truth. But going back to those, when you read an article like that, and a lot of media are doing this because this brings a lot of traffic. Again,
Yeah.
hate it. And not the traffic, but because
Yeah.
the media are supposed to do this to bring traffic, right? And then get better Google rankings. But people might read this article, and based on this, they may make financial decision. And that's
Mhm.
why it's important into every article that might be talking about markets to put this disclaimer. That's it. I'm done.
Yeah, no, no, absolutely. And I think it's really to encourage people to, apply some critical thinking, right? Which sometimes is lacking in some spaces, but let's not go there. Uh, and
Oh yeah.
anonymous sources are common in crypto. So how do you decide when to trust them and when not to?
Thank you for, bringing this up because anonymous sources is a kind of a two-way question for me. First
Mhm.
of all, there is anonymity that is supposed to be in blockchain, but it's also like verified. It's verified data. You can double check that. If we're talking about data, there's anonymity, potential anonymity in who owns this or who's making this moves in the markets, right? Or who moved what, where, and how. Some of the wallets for instance, are known and people know who they belong to, what companies, right, with balance sheets and stuff like that. But also, for me, anonymous sources are all of those people on our beloved Crypto X, which is the main source for news. Also, very disturbing, but unfortunately true. Anonymous sources and anonymous accounts, those very popular traders with huge followings that people follow and listen to and make their decisions about what's going on and their opinions based on those Twitter or X accounts. So I'm going to touch 2 points, and I'm going to touch on the first one. For us, hopefully for all of the people that I worked with and for all of the companies, it is very important to verify and, if possible, to get a double confirmation of the information. What I mean by that is, back in the print days of not crypto media or on TV, it is very important to break a huge story, a potentially market moving story, or a very sensitive story with double confirmation from two different sources. It's supposed to be independent, and you're supposed to know that it's true. Right.
Yeah.
And so for us, it is very important to use any single tool that is available. If you're working at a crypto media company, you're probably in the circle of different partnerships that provide data for you. What I mean by that, if you visit any crypto media website, it's not only news. Hopefully, it's also about the product. And you see some kind of charts or price indices, right? And you can, on Cointelegraph specifically on the block, CoinDesk as well, right? So if you go there and if you see any coin mentioned, you will click on it, or there's a separate page dedicated to blockchain and crypto data. And so these are usually the partnership with other data platforms. But I hope that they're not only using the platforms that they're partnered with, because that's actually the point. You have to verify with as many independent sources as possible, and that comes down to the possibilities of those platforms. So I really do love. It's not ad in any way. I'm never getting paid for anything I mentioned. That's the truth of my job. And I always, I often get into trouble for what I say. So June Analytics is something we love. Obviously CoinMarketCap, because it's the go-to source. CryptoGecko, it's usually also the site that we have used. DeFi Llama, I love this because it's all about DeFi and it gets all the data, right? This is just on top of my head, right? Into the block and every single major platform that is out there. And there are honestly a lot of them that are popping up. There are platforms that are devoted to meme coins or, launch pads. There are DeFi, and there's also just centralized exchanges platforms. So anything that you can use to double or triple check your information, please do. So that's for me is very important. And any ETC scan or anything else, any possible blockchain explorer, use it, right? Because you have to double check. I know you have to double check the information. I know it's blockchain. I know it's supposed to be unbiased and perfect, but it's your job to double check. So double check it. So that's for me is to kind of verify the information. That's the first part. The second part of what I mentioned, anonymous sources, right? It's those crypto accounts, saying this again, that have huge following for some reason. They do not have a photo of their own or even a real name or their location, nothing. So you as a journalist could use to actually write about them or quote them. Yet we do. Unfortunately, that's the reality. And I think this is very dangerous. And here's what I mean, right? So first of all, why it happens, and I've talked to a lot of my colleagues from crypto media space and also from Bloomberg and Financial Times, right? So from the financial media, more traditional financial media, and they're not happy about this. But this is what it is. We've never been before in the history of media. We've never been in a circle where a president or an advisor or a prime minister or a CEO would say something publicly or would use social media to announce something. And that's because they do it. That's where we came in, and we are doing this every single day, right? We quote them because this is the platform where they
Mhm.
kind of where they have platform and where they speak. So we
Yeah.
have to follow the rules of the game. But it is very painful. I would really wish that we could use, I don't know, sources and scoops and talk to people and call them and have confirmation, because whatever is on Twitter doesn't mean that it's true, right? Do your own
Yeah.
research, if you will. I mean, I'm just kidding about the do your own research, but of course, and there are a series of crypto accounts that people follow, and one of them is very important blockchain investigator, and that's just an example. And
Right.
here's what I mean by it's dangerous. This person, I don't know who they are, but this person kind of exposes scams, and they have been very helpful. And honestly, they have been the first ones in many cases to notice what is happening, or kind of unusual movements in that company's wallets, or those, or on the market. So something they are usually like alarming us of something that is happening or about to go down or has just happened, but nobody has noticed. And if you think about it, it's very helpful. And they're doing great job, great service to the community. But if you think about it, you don't know who they are and what kind of
Yeah.
interest they are pursuing. And that's what's dangerous. And again, all of the companies, media companies that I work for, we covered this person and we quoted them. And but I think you have to be very cautious about how you do this, because it's also about the
Mhm.
wording. Like, if you haven't interacted with this person, if you never saw them, how could you trust that what they're doing is not, there is no hidden motive? Because maybe they
Yeah.
are covering this publicly because they have huge following, right? And people trust them. But maybe they're not saying something else. You don't know who hired them. You don't know what kind of interest
Yeah.
they have. This is just an example. Again, I tend to think personally that probably this person is doing something good, because they're bringing attention to a lot of scams, a lot of rug pulls, and a lot of bad stuff. But maybe they're not putting our attention where it's supposed to be. I don't know, potentially.
Yeah.
I'm a journalist. I'm supposed to question this. And that's very frightening for me, because if you're using anonymous sources and if you're quoting popular traders with I don't know, with just like funny names in
Mhm.
your publication, please make sure to also include this information, that you don't know who this person is, and you don't
Yeah.
know what kind of interest they have, and you don't know if we're supposed to trust them. But by covering them, we're giving them platform, right? We're
Mhm.
giving them more platform, and we're bringing more people to them. So that's a vicious circle. And yeah, very disappointing, but it is what it is. So for me, this is verify if possible, reach out to every single person that you saw getting involved with this person online. If those accounts are not talking to you, like this there are publications out there that are literally quoting traders, anonymous traders, about what they said or didn't say about potential market movements. That's insane. Just think about it. What if this
Oh
person is a
man.
market maker or a
Yeah.
liquidity provider, right? And maybe they need you right now to buy in or sell everything because they want to
Mhm.
come in and buy something at a lower price. And you're actually to get the traffic and to be the first one and to get the recognition and to get aggregated by other sources and to be featured on X. You cover this, but you don't know why this person is saying that. You don't know if they're actually doing any sort of analysis at all. And that's like insane. And I really hope that this would stop, but I'm probably going to lose this battle. Yeah, it's
Yeah, yeah, it is what it is, but I think also, we need to reshape how these are done, right? I mean, you
yeah.
you spoke about verification and also some companies as well. What methods or tools do you use to verify information? I know you touched upon this earlier, but I thought maybe we could dig a little bit deeper,
Hmm.
especially when blockchain data and analytics platforms are involved, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, as I said, right, and as I mentioned, it would be great for every single journalist to double check the information. And so if you're using one platform, like for instance, I think if I'm not mistaken, and I hope that they will not get mad at me, I think for one of the publication we use CoinStats as just an example, right? But CoinStats is, for instance, slower than CoinMarketCap. Just an example, slower in the way they aggregate information. And so for you to actually report on the current market cap or current price movement, you have to double check different sources and also mention what kind of sources you used for this information. Because here's the thing, there is such a procedure, such a step, and that is called turnaround. So from the time you actually write this article to the time it gets to your editor and to the time it gets published on the website, there's going to be some time in there. It's definitely going to be hopefully very fast. If it's a very smooth journalist and an editor that is very fast and trust this person, maybe 30 minutes. Sometimes it's faster, also not. It's very dangerous also that way. You should double check everything. Sometimes it's an hour or more. It depends on what kind of story we're talking about, if you need to double check. But so you have to double check even before you press publish. And that's an editor's job. And so here's the thing. Use as many platforms as possible, right? All the data platforms that you think you can trust, but also say that for your reader, what kind of platforms you used. It's very important. And I think almost every single publication is doing this. And I think it's a bit like you could go to this platform and double check that we use this source. So yeah, I personally love DeFi Llama, June, Into the Block, ETH Scan, a Blockchain Explorer, right? Any other Tron Explorer. I think this one is called T-Rex. I'm not sure. So anything that is very user friendly, because I'm not a technical nerd, but I also need my data. You know what I mean? So I love those. Again, it's not an ad, but it's something that we've used a lot of times in the past. But there are a lot more, and also be careful about them as well. I think if you sum up our podcast, I think it's going to be very careful. That's just me saying be very careful. Information could just be very careful. That's
UIOR.
Yeah, no value at all, Catherine. Thank you.
So in your experience as well, like how often do media owners interest clash with editorial independence in the crypto space?
How much time do you have? Oh my God. Okay, so here's a disclaimer. I'm not trying to get anybody in trouble. I'm just honest. If you've met me, you know this about me. But yeah, I'm gonna tell you several stories that are highlighting what's going on. And if you let me, I would also like to address any potential crypto media owner. And I have a message for them. Because honestly, if we're being very personal, I think this question in reality brought me to a mental breakdown in the end. Serious. And I'm not even kidding. And if people don't know this about crypto journalism, there are great people out there. There are decent reporters that are doing an amazing job, but nobody knows what's going on behind the scenes, right? And you don't know what we're fighting. You don't know how many editors have been fighting for the truth when a story does not benefit a crypto media owner. And that's scary, that's disgusting, but it's the reality. And here's the thing, crypto media owners do not think that this is something bad. This is what I've experienced. They do not think that this is bad. It's just, do not publish the story because it damages one of my companies or something like that. So I'm going to touch on this. And I think, so here's the thing. The question was, how often do media owners' interests clash with editorial independence, right? So in my personal experience, very often. And that's also a very sad part. Again, are people going to be depressed about listening to this episode?
Well, that's very much like, the legacy media, right? Because even in traditional media, like there's a lot of censorship and but please, I'd love to hear the story.
So, and I cannot stress this enough, in my personal experience, in the companies that I've interacted with, worked for, and built for, very often, unfortunately, and that's actually the part of why we're not as big as, let's say, Bloomberg, why there is not a single crypto media company that is as big as Bloomberg. Well, first of all, because crypto is a part of financial industry, but still niche-ish, niche-ish. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's supposed to become bigger for people to get just more audience. That's
Yeah.
fair. But it's also, I think, I'm not saying that every one of them is like that, but the stories that I've heard and the experience that I had is just very disturbing. Because here's the truth: crypto journalism is a very, very fresh vertical. Let me put it that way,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because crypto itself is very, very new. It is not so. Up to several years ago, we couldn't do fundamental analysis on crypto because there is just not enough years for a crypto assets to be analyzed
Mm-hmm.
fundamentally, because it was just invented a couple of years ago. So you don't have the data to do a fundamental analysis, and this is the type of analysis that is very popular in traditional financial media, right? Or for analysts, I mean, to do and to look at the stock or a commodity, right? To analyze potential movement and stuff like that. So we didn't have a possibility to do that for some of the assets because they're not 10 years old. Many of them are just like were born yesterday. If we look at the
Yeah.
market cap, you could see just newborns, and that's why in the very beginning there was a word, and there were people that some of the people just really wanted to have a crypto media because there were none, and they had it was the momentum of some sort. So they had the money, they had this idea, and they wanted to create a crypto media platform for the good of the community. I don't know or not. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I don't know, but CoinDesk was one of the first ones. Cointelegraph, Bitcoin Magazine, CCN was also one of the first ones, but I think they kind of pivoted. So they shut down for a while and then they pivoted and other coverage. So these were the publications that were in full force when I joined the crypto industry in 2017. And so the thing is that many of them did not have media experience. And what's worse, they considered this not to be a bad thing that they didn't have any sort of media experience. They even thought that because we're not from media and because crypto is so new, there are different ways of doing things. So let's do them differently, they said, and build a bunch of platforms. And here's the truth: if you don't have any media experience and you want to launch a media company, I'm begging you, either have some experience. I mean, talk to journalists, talk to editors, talk to previous crypto media owners, and do it and go for it, or don't launch it, because in the end what we could possibly have is a team that is suffering from crypto media owners that have no clue of how this works, and they don't want to know. They just want you to do what they want to do, not understanding that this is against the very nature of journalism. You're not supposed to get involved with editorial, and they don't even know when they're doing that. That's the sad part, because they never had the experience. They never read The Bloomberg Way. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a book by the first editor-in-chief at Bloomberg, right? They never sat down with a journalist, I don't know, a war correspondent or a financial correspondent, to just kind of talk to them how it works. What's this process supposed to look like? And that puts a lot of pressure on managers of a crypto media platforms. So I've been a manager for like when I say a manager, I mean an
Mm-hmm.
editor, a managing editor, editor-in-chief, editorial director. That's a managerial position, but it's also like heavy involvements with editorial team as well. And it comes down to the team of people, or to the team of people, nice, to the team of reporters and editors that are trying to do their job and trying to, I don't know, break stories, bringing scoops, exclusive investigations, and a team of people who own this company and have
Mm-hmm.
opinions. They have opinions on what they think is, should work or should not work. And that comes
Yeah.
down to sometimes everyday conversations or board meetings or something like that, when you try to persuade that, if you, and this is something that happened in one of the publications. We had an owner of a publication coming to us, even though they're not supposed to. They still came and said, "Hey, here's an article on my competitor. I want you to publish this." And so I am, hopefully, I'm a nice person to work with. I would love to think that I am a nice person, and I'm a fighter in the sense of for what's right. And I thought that's the benefit. But the truth
Yeah.
is that crypto media owners consider me problematic because I'm going to say no and I'm going to fight for this. And I got into trouble a lot of times. And I've been threatened of being fired so many times because I refuse to do what they want us to do. But I think this is right. And that's what
Yeah.
I've been standing for. And that's what I've been fighting for. And people who work with me, they know this, right? And I try to shield this from them as much as possible because it really is mentally very hard because every day you're supposed to fight. You're not supposed to fight. That's the truth. You're
Yeah.
supposed to do
It's
your
dream, isn't it? Yeah.
you're supposed to go out there in the world, in an online world, in the field, if you will, and talk to sources and investigate and work on your reporting, getting better, right? And finding the truth and bringing different sides to the story and uncovering stories like the one from CoinDesk reporter Ian on Sam Bankman-Fried that actually took down the exchange. That's the stories that you're supposed to aim at, not fighting with crypto media owners about an article about why you did or did not publish this or that. And here's one of the pains, probably for some of the listeners. Sometimes they want us to commit to the number of articles per day. I mean, it is possible. It is understandable. It's a cycle. It's a new cycle. But here's the thing: if Trump today is gonna, come out and say, "I hate crypto," today in this environment, and he's going to say, "I hate crypto," it's going to be a very active news cycle. First of all, you report on what he said, then on why he probably said that, sources, comments, expert, then about what it's doing to the market, and then something is going to unravel step by step and more information, and then you're doing deep dives on the next day of here's how he changed his mind over time, stuff like that. So it's going to be a very active news cycle, and you definitely don't know how many articles you're going to publish if we're talking about news.
Mhm.
But if it's a very slow news, if it's a Sunday,
Yeah.
I mean, I understand why, and we usually try to commit to a minimum amount of articles, but it's also not fair to expect us to commit like to 20 articles per day if it's a very slow news cycle.
Yeah.
And push people to write about something that is not significant or
Yeah.
does not matter or probably should not be talked about because you're giving platform to bad actors. It's not fair. And so in my experience, it is a huge problem behind the scenes that people you tend not to talk about. And I do not talk about this publicly. I never talked about this, but I have so many shady stories to tell. I didn't, and I'm probably not going to reveal all the information that I know for two reasons. First of all, to protect reporters and editors that have nothing to do with this. If you're going to say something about the crypto media owner, it instantly brings light to the reporters and editors. And here's a very good example of that, right? I'm going to talk about this just to finish my thought. But many reporters and editors have nothing to do with that. They just want to do their job. And they might have been truthful and like really great journalists, but nobody's going to trust them because of crypto media owners' actions. That's the sad part. And the second part, and it's, I think, unfair if I, talk about this, I will again be considered problematic. Let's just accept the fact that I'm problematic. I'm okay with that. Let's just roll. I'm problematic. Well, yeah, but I mean, if you stand up to the founder or a stakeholder, you might have some balls, right? In a
Yeah.
metaphorical stance in my case, but they consider you to be problematic because you're not doing what they're telling you to do. Like, how dare you? Who do you think you
Yeah.
are? I own this platform, do this. But and you don't want to damage a media company's brand because nobody's going to
Mhm.
trust you. And trust is the only thing that journalism is built on. Everybody loves to hate journalism. They do. I think it's a very trendy thing right now not to trust journalists and not to like them, to hate them, right? And to kind of blame everything on them until something happens to them, until it's your assets involved, until it's you who is under pressure. Then you want unbiased journalists, and then you want
Yeah.
verified information and stuff like that. So yeah, and bringing to the point of owners versus the editorial did not know anything about this. It's
Mhm.
It's a case that happened, let me just double check, in 2022, right? After the fall of FTX, after this whole, what my colleague called the FTX fiasco or bloodbath that brought down the markets back in November 2022, the information came to light that at the time, the acting CEO of the Block, a media company that I uh, I love them, and I think they're doing this right. And to some of the questions that you're probably going to ask, I will also give them as an provide them as an example because they're doing this right. So, and I know some of the people at the Block personally. I've met them. I talked to them, and the way that their editorial is set up, it really makes you trust them, right? But then the news came out that their CEO took money from Sam Bankman-Fried. And that was woo. And here's what you have. I assumed, because I know how crypto media companies work, I assumed that probably the majority of the team did nothing about this, did not know nothing about this. They didn't know because they're not involved. That's the setup of a media company. They don't know. Sometimes they don't even talk to founders. They're not supposed to, or at least founders are not supposed to try to influence them in any way. So that's the right way, right? They don't talk to founder stakeholders or the sales team directly. They're not supposed to, not to get influenced in any way. And so they probably didn't know. But the criticism that it brought, and that's not fair because for me, the Block is one of the best crypto publications. And I was like, no way. You guys asked me not to swear. So something is going to go down the drain. They're going to get blamed. They're going to be eviscerated. And that's not fair because they didn't know. And from the people that I talked to, they were shocked. From an editorial team, they didn't know. And they were very worried that this is going to kind of be the end of the Block because, this person that is now heading to jail that defrauded millions, I think it was millions of people, a lot of people across the world. And yeah, so this is a very bad actor in the space. And we have him as one of the investors in the current editorial circle of editorial operations. So that was insane. That was very scary. They survived. I hope they would, and they did, because this comes down to the integrity of the editorial team, and a lot more people back them up. Like, I know this person. This is a great journalist. Look at the work that they did. Here's the thing. Frank Chaparro, one of the founding reporters at the Block, he was one of the first ones back in 2018 when the publication launched. He actually interviewed CBF before this news came out. He interviewed him on the record, and it was brutal. Like it was a weird interview because it's Sam Bankman-Fried. He is weird in a way, right? It's sometimes hard to understand him in a sense of like, is this an act? Is this a real person? What kind of intentions they have? That's the thing. But he interviewed him and he didn't know about this. The information about his involvement did not come to light. So that's also one of the steps. And they survived. But this could have ended differently. And that's the scary part, right? So I should say that crypto media owners will probably try to influence you. Your job is to defend journalism. You're going to get into trouble. You're going to get in trouble. I mean, not like legal trouble or anything like that. But some people are not going to like you, but that's the job. And, but you do your job and, try to be a very trustful journalist with a great reputation. And no matter what happens, there are going to be people who hate you. There are going to be people who love you. It's just part of the job. And a message to potential crypto media owners. Guys, this is not a fast get rich scheme. This is not a fast business model. No. You're not going to get rich fast off of this. Please do not go into crypto media with intent to make a lot of money real fast. The truth is that crypto media or any other media is supposed to be built on trust, and trust is earned with time. And if you're trying to influence your reporters, first of all, you're not going to trust them or your publication. And here's an example. All of the crypto media owners and founders that I work with, because they try to influence the editorial, they now think that this is the way every single media works. And that's a problem, right? it's not like it doesn't mean that every single crypto media founder gets involved. Some of them respect editorial integrity and they do not. But if you do this, you think that everybody else is doing. And so going back to my message, please do not launch this for the sake of just, I want to have this. I want to have a platform for my companies to get advertised. I'm going to get rich fast, because this is going to end up into you pressuring the editorial to publish what they're not supposed to. To kind of just, or sometimes just make your potential journalistic media into a content farm with 25 or more news article per day, just like, why is this up, why is this down, somebody said this, somebody said that. So it's just going to be a very
And there's a lot of mixed messaging as well, right?
yeah.
In that sense, and with differing stories, and I like the fact that you mentioned, you talked about integrity, and I think it does come down to integrity and having integrity when reporting such things. And I see a lot of sponsored content in crypto journalism. Where's the line between necessary revenue and compromised integrity, since we're on that subject of integrity?
Oh my God. I hope that some of the people that we, work together with are listening to this. Guys, this is our time. We can finally talk about this. Thank you so much for bringing this question. And again, along with along with my hatred towards why is this up or down content, sponsored content comes next, very close to. Here's the thing. Okay, crypto media it's still a business, right? It's supposed to make money. It's fair game in that sense. Like, you're supposed to make money to finance your editorial, to improve your product, to kind of keep going, to keep building, to make sure that your team is paid, satisfied, ready to go, tackle the markets and the world, right? So you're supposed to make money. That's the truth. But the thing is it actually a very logical conclusion from what I just said about people who launch crypto media because they want to, with no experience, with no understanding of how it's supposed to work, and why some potential advertisers, especially in the crypto space, are problematic and are going to damage your brand forever. They're supposed to know this. It's very important for people to think this through. And sponsored content is a part of the game. Unfortunately, I came to terms with it. The truth is that it also came with a lot of troubles. As you can I think you can hear from my conversation, a lot of pain, a lot of trauma.
I feel you.
I feel you. Fights. Yes, this is the truth. Journalists fight for the truth, and both inside and outside. And in just with people to bring the truth. People have no idea how mentally depressed and deprived we are. But going back to your question, right? So you're supposed to make money for whatever reason, just to improve the level of coverage, better reporters, better journalists, or you want to have more revenue for yourself. It's up to you. You're supposed to make money. And there are different ways. And honestly, crypto journalists have talked about this for a while. What is the best way to make revenue? Is it ads? Is it paywall? Is it subscription-based products? Is it conferences? Like CoinDesk, for instance, has a Blockworks, right? So they might be a better option for you to make money to sponsor your editorial, because it does take a lot of money. If you want a great publication, you would want great reporters with experience, like a great UX UI on your website, and as I mentioned, partnership with data and design and stuff like that. So this is a whole operation, and it costs money. But the truth is that with not tier one crypto media, but the tier 2 or tier 3 crypto publications, they tend to advertise, or let's look at it that way, to provide platforms to crypto projects that they probably do not verify. And that's a huge problem. First of all, because legally you have responsibility, and you cannot provide platforms to false advertisers or to advertisers that are potentially involved in a breaking the law or in a potential scam. So here's the thing: you're breaking the law by providing coverage, in this case, paid for sponsored coverage, to a scam, right? If you're involved with that, you could have legal repercussions. That's the truth. But let's look at it that way. It damages your brand. People are going to have assumptions. I suffered from this myself because I hope that you can hear that I truly care about journalism in general. It's very personal to me. I'm like deeply, I would love to change it. Not talking about the journalism stuff, but I would love to change the ways that I've experienced in crypto media. I would love to build something that you can trust, even though there is always room for, human error, but still, I care. I really do care. And I really personally suffered a lot mentally, physically, to get platforms going, to get that brand on top. And so the advertisers that sometimes the sales teams chose to work with, like, just look at them, right? It's a pop-up banner. And if you're going on a crypto website and you have all those banners popping up with like huge graphics and very bright colors, and it's questionable in a sense of the way that this ad looks, you're going to have certain assumptions about reputation about this brand. That's why it's very important, right? So if you see a lot of pop-ups and a lot of bright colors and a lot of casinos, my favorite subject, I hate fighting with the sales teams about casinos. Like, just don't advertise them.
Yeah.
No, you're gonna get in trouble.
Do you have any examples of, where, not checking an advertiser's background had led to serious consequences for the publication?
So many, but I'm going to talk about the biggest one. So it was, and please, my dear colleagues, do not get upset. It happened. It's on the public record. I had to apologize for this personally, even though I wasn't involved. So it was either the end of 2017 or 2018. And we were getting bigger at Cointelegraph, right? I was deputy editor-in-chief and also chief brand officer. So my job was not only to manage editorial operations and everything that is involved with like journalism and editors and reporters, but also to get the word out of the brand, about the brand, and to kind of break the ceiling that was back there in those years for crypto and any crypto related company. And we were just trying to set up editorial operations the right way, right? So no involvement from other team members, founders, or anybody else potentially who's not supposed to be involved. And we were building the flow. And one of those steps is different style guides and guidelines on how you're supposed to operate, what the do's and don'ts, if you will. It is stylistic, but it's also about your mission as a media company. And so we're just getting started. A very prolonged and difficult conversation about the fact that we're not supposed to give platforms to advertisers if we do not verify them at all. Again, 2017 or early 2018, I don't remember specifically. It was a very long conversation with one of the founders and one of the not with all of the executive members of the team. Is like, hey guys, it's very dangerous. And it's like, it's going to be very sad and funny. The end of the story. Hey guys, this is very dangerous. We're getting popular, and we were. It actually was one of the top moments for crypto because it was the time when Bitcoin, for the first time ever, touched 20K. And a lot of people were just like crazy about this financial asset, like non-existent money, but it's now 20K. Oh, I want to get involved. So we were getting a lot of traffic, great revenue. And I was like, my team, like my editors and I were just pushing like, hey guys, we need to do something. We need to set up a verification desk or just analysts that would potentially go through this company records, if any, team background members, to look into the white paper and potential fundamentals of this company. And we need to make decisions like that and not provide platforms for anybody, literally anybody. And so we were in this conversation, we're meeting because, different cities, different countries. And so we're flying in on conferences, talking, persuading. And then the sales team sold the package to a company called, infamous company called BitConnect. I'm not sure if you have been around in the crypto for a very long time to know this name, but this is a big deal. And you probably have heard the word BitConnect and all of those memes. It was a huge scam. And the sales team sold a huge advertisement package to them. And so here's how it unraveled. I think it was very, very late. Oh, yeah. And of course, I was about to fly to Singapore to one of the conferences, and I get a call saying something is going on our Twitter back at the time. People are literally upset. They're very upset. You should check. And I'm checking Twitter, and I did not see the story. Again, the sales team, they were working separately and there were no coordination, but we wanted to get some sort of just verification desk for somebody to check who the hell are we advertising? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And and so here's how it unraveled. They published an article. It's a sponsored content article, right? So it's sponsored. It has disclaimers that it's an ad. We were very careful about that. That was a win for us to mark sponsored content to kind of protect. We also took time to persuade the team to do that. I mean, this is crazy. Well, the things that we had to do, but we did it. And so it's clearly marked sponsored. It has disclaimer, but people are upset that this is one of the biggest scams right now. It's being investigated, and you guys are publishing an ad highlighting their, and I'm air quoting the best part of it and why somebody should invest into this. And that was crazy. So people got really upset. It was really loud on social media and everywhere else. The emails that we got, from just like, you guys suck to die kind of things, die tonight, or I hope you die, you're took on your own blood or something like that. So that's one part of it. But then one of the biggest influencers and thought leaders, if you will, and prominent figures in the space starting to publish a hashtag ban Cointelegraph. Ban Coin. So everybody from Vitalik Buterin to literally every single developer out there was posting hashtag ban Cointelegraph and like blocking us and publishing screenshots. Hey, I blocked them. Like, you should unfollow them. You should block them. They should know what they did. They should pay for it. And here's the truth. The editorial team and me, we had no idea about this. We even had like separate management systems. We were in the process of fighting for exactly this, like to protect us from this, to build a desk of analysts that would, estimate the pros and cons of advertising this project. And so obviously the article got, we took it down, published a disclaimer, an apology, and I had to personally apologize for something I did not do. But I was one of the faces of the brand, and I had to. And so this is the price that you pay. Our traffic obviously got really, really down. So it kind of fell a lot for the next 3 months. We fought to get back on track for people to trust us. A lot of interviews got canceled because I think it was, okay, I probably should have checked the date, but it was right before some sort of big conference. And so I was supposed to go there and interview a lot of people. I had interviews lined up, and people canceled because they wanted nothing to do with Cointelegraph. And so that was very frustrating. And in the end, the executives hired a team of analysts that would do due diligence for potential advertisers. But this is the price that we had to pay for this. And this is insane. And this is, I know a lot of crypto media owners that say it's never going to happen. Google is not going to ban us. But thankfully, Google sometimes does their job and does ban or mark or, mark as potential danger those websites that are not doing the right thing. So the price is really high. And it's not only in revenue. It's not only in traffic. It's not only Google rankings. I think the most important part is the trust in your media brand. This is the thing that you sometimes will not recover from. And that's the truth.
Wow. I mean, that is such a story, and so much heartache as well, right? That comes with it. But then, in some ways, it achieved what you had, put for.
Yeah, but it was it costs a lot, like in a mental and physical toll.
That must have been traumatizing. I mean, do you think it's even realistic for crypto media to remain entirely neutral, when the industry itself is so polarized?
Well, here's the thing. You don't go into journalism to please everybody. That's the truth. I know a lot of decent people whose like sole purpose is to bring the truth and the light, inform people. And I think that's really great that we still have those people, right? And
Yes.
the thing is that you're going to get into trouble. You're going to have people who adore what you do and appreciate that. But you're also going to have a lot more people who hate you. And that's the truth of this business, if you will, this line of work, especially right now in a very, as you mentioned, polarized world where, again, everybody hates a journalist and
Yeah.
everybody blames everything on journalism and on the way something is covered or not covered, on the highlighted parts or not highlighted. Like the way that the New York Times is reporting in Gaza right now and on everything that is happening out there. Did you see what happened? The people who are not pleased with the way that they covered this issue, they vandalized the entrance to the New York Times building in New
Yes.
York, right? So
Mhm.
with the red paint and
Yeah.
like papers and stuff. So like people are going to get upset, but your job is to try to remain impartial as much as possible
Mhm.
and to think about your dignity as a reporter, and no matter how painful it is, to continue report from all the sides of the story. This is
Yes.
also very important, right? Because here's the thing: if you're writing an example, no matter what you say, somebody's going to get upset. No matter how you're going to say it, somebody's going to get upset. And here's an example: if you're writing about Ethereum, just an example, and you're pointing out to a flaw in the Ethereum network, right? Or let's say it's like a couple of years ago and you're complaining, or you pointed out that the fees are really high. Again, not right now, but a
Mhm.
couple of years later, there are gonna you're gonna get people who are praising you for finally saying that Ethereum is not that fantastic. And you're gonna get Ethereum maxis who are gonna criticize everything about you and your entire human like nature and the fact that you exist because you
Yeah.
touched on this subject. Everybody's too sensitive, but this is your job. If there is a flaw and potential problem, you're going to report on this. So your job is to remain as neutral as possible and do your best. That's the job. And to cover all stories. I think like this is problematic for crypto, and I'm going to give you one example. But it's also, I think, even more problematic for political journalism right now. And I think you can understand why, because
Mhm.
is so polarized. So no matter what you're gonna say, it's even in the wording. Even if you're trying to use a neutral word, not to put unnecessary light or like not to make a mistake, and you're using a
Yes.
neutral statement, people are gonna eviscerate you for doing that because you're supposed
Mm.
to highlight this or do not highlight. So like it's just the part of the job. And one of the examples, one of my former colleagues, just highlighting some of the points that people didn't like. Molly Jane, I think she's currently a director of newsletter strategy at Blockworks. So she used to be an
Mhm.
opinion editor, and we worked together at Cointelegraph. So fun times. And so she wrote an article, but I have to say that this was an opinion. It's not a news article. It's not a news story. It was an opinion about. It was the presidential election in the U.S., the latest ones, right? So there was Kamala Harris and Trump, presidential candidates. And a lot of people were saying online, and crypto got so political. All of a sudden, it was, so it used to be this like bad boy fighting the bad world, but bad boy that you
Mhm.
like. This is the crypto, right? But then it got so
Mhm.
polarized, so political. Like, if you're in crypto, then you're libertarian. And like, whoa, this is my eighth
Yeah.
year in this industry. I did not know that you're supposed to be libertarian. What if somebody just like do not believe in politics? What if I'm like, I don't know, what if I'm Christian? If somebody's a great like is you're not supposed to be in crypto? Like again, I'm touching on very sensitive
Yeah.
subjects here. But
No,
again,
but you're
that's
right, and that's the thing. It gets very politicized as well, right?
yes.
Yes. Yeah. Please
So
continue.
yeah, so she published an article, an opinion. Again, it's an opinion. And if you publish an opinion, you're not supporting this opinion. Me just being in charge of crypto publications, I asked my opinion editors to publish different sides of the story, the ones that I personally agree with and the ones that I do not disagree that I don't agree with or disagree with. The ones that I personally hate, but it's my personal opinion. Opinion Desk
Yeah.
is about different opinions, right? And so she published an article that titled "Only a Fool Would Vote on Crypto Alone." Her point was that becoming a single issue voter is problematic for the country, the United States in this case. Because she pointed out that if you're voting for Trump just because he's pro crypto, you're not considering all of the drawbacks that might potentially, come from this. I'm not going to say, I'm not a US citizen, so it's still very close to me because we're in the media world. We're just like, we know about stuff. And I lived and worked in the US and always dreamed of moving there. So I still consider this like close to me, but I wasn't involved that much because I'm not, I'm not going to vote in this election. But here's the thing. She said that in the environment where literally everybody was coming out as like, I'm Republican or I'm pro Trump. I'm not engaged in any party, but I'm going to be pro Trump. I'm going to be voting for Trump because he is pro crypto. Literally everybody. So this was the hottest and potentially dangerous environment to publish this article in. Again, for the crypto media brand momentum, perfect timing. Literally everybody was reading this article and everybody was talking about this article. But here's the truth, because this wasn't an unpopular opinion. People got so evil. They took it very far. So they were, kind of violating her privacy and obviously death threats. Why would you threat somebody just because they wrote an opinion article on crypto? Come on, guys. Like that's not a life-threatening. It's not supposed to be a life-threatening issue, but it is. And so, they started to talk about the way she looks or doesn't look, the way they think about it, the way that she posted. And I used this verb before, but they did eviscerate her. It was painful to watch. It was an opinion article.
Personal.
Yes, it was not supposed to get that far. I think her tweet about, hey, this is my opinion, got like 5 million views. Like, so that was just the tweet announcing that she wrote this article. And again, it created a circle of other news and other opinions based on that. Again, a huge momentum for Blockworks. And honestly, it was a bold editorial decision because I think they understood what kind of criticism that might draw to the publication, what kind of traffic it might, bring to and along with DDoS attacks. That's what it comes to. If you publish something that somebody doesn't like, they kind of can damage your, website. So that's the rules of the game. But it's unfair. It was so that's why your job is to sum up, but I had to provide an example. Your job is to publish the truth. Doesn't matter if somebody's not going to like you, but that's your job. Because in the end, they will thank you. It might not happen today. It might not happen, maybe even in your lifetime, but it does matter. Again, people do not appreciate journalism until something happens to them. But once they do, they will not want an AI bot to write an article about them. They would want a very impartial, unbiased journalist to get all of the details, to portray you as who you are, and to provide all of the facts, right? That's the truth.
Yeah. No, and they say, I mean, I'm saying they in, open and close inverted commas.
Yeah.
They say that, you're doing the right thing when people hate you. I don't know whether that's true or not, right?
Yeah, it is like it still gets too personal, but yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah. And can a crypto journalist ever be completely independent if they personally hold crypto?
Here's a very interesting situation that you bring in this up. In crypto, there are two sides of the story, and it has been for as long as I can remember. You have, let's say, Laura Shin. She's my personal hero. She's the first crypto editor at Forbes, graduate of Stanford. Like, I love her and everything that she does. And now she is a founder and owner and editor-in-chief at her own media publication called Unchained. So I think she published a book on Ethereum. Like, she's just great. She's a famous no coiner. And no coiner is somebody who refuses to hold crypto for some reason or chooses not to, right? And let's not get too much color on this. So like, does not hold coins. She, I think, I'm not stating that for a fact. I think she's doing that not to get involved personally. I'm assuming, again, this is my opinion. I'm not sure. And that's understandable. And I think there's truth to that. And she has a point. But at the same time, she was not only her personally, but everybody in crypto journals who didn't hold crypto was being crucified for that. Because how can you report on something you don't understand? Like, how can you talk about swapping coins or tokens
Yeah.
if you never did this, if you don't have a wallet, if you never use this platform, exchange, or blah, blah, blah? And like, with every single, like, DeFi was not always there. DeFi was a new,
Hmm.
a new arm of crypto when I joined. So it wasn't back there in 2017, like, or NFTs, right? They were
Yeah.
there, but they got momentum in 2020, right, during the pandemic. And so whenever something new happens, if a journalist says that they do not hold coins, there's like, what do you know about this? You know nothing. We cannot trust you. Like, you can never
Yeah.
please anybody in this like industry, right? So either you really bad for not holding coins and you don't have a leg to stand on because you don't know what you're talking about, you never use this, or you have crypto holdings and you are doing insider trading, you are a bad person, you are involved. Okay, here's the truth for you guys. If you have been around in the space, you know that insider trading in crypto is much bigger than it is in traditional financial markets. If this is news to you, then let me break this to you. It is true. Crypto has become so is like, I don't know, so controlled by, if you want to call them whales and whales, by some of the institutions, some of the market makers and liquidity providers, that
Hmm.
they are making movements, market movements, long before a journalist, whether they hold crypto or not, is going to tell the story. They already are long and or short, depending on what they need right now and some of their positions. So, and that's the truth. If you hold or if you don't hold crypto, it's up to you. Obviously, I think it's better for you to know what you're talking about, to use this if you feel very, kind of unsure about this. Try to use stable coins, right? Because stable coins is pegged to national currency, so it's much less volatile. Hopefully there is non-existent volatility, but still, like, it's financial
Yeah.
markets, right? So and let's think about Luna, right? That was insane, but still. So stable coins in this case, that might be a more like safer option
Hmm.
for you. So think about, but use it, obviously use it, try different platforms, see how they work, because it will it will influence the way that you understand the markets and the industry and the community and what they're talking about. So I think it's important to have some leg and to have some skin in the game, if you will. But yeah, just choose wisely. I personally do not know any single crypto journalist. I hope I don't. Maybe they didn't tell me who owns crypto that would potentially be problem, because like they tend to get like Bitcoin or Ethereum or just like something that is has history or not
Hmm.
very sexy in the case of like potential ROI, right? So like
Hmm.
they do hold some of this, but this is not something that they can influence in any way. Because it's too big in this sense. So that's when I think it's important to definitely understand what you're talking about. But it again, you're not gonna please anybody in any case. That's
Yeah. And I would say DYOR, right?
yes. Yes, in this case.
So before we wrap things up, if you had to choose, break a huge story first, but risk inaccuracies, or publish second, with full verification, what wins in crypto journalism today?
I'm going to kind of divide this question into two answers,
Mhm.
if you don't mind. I would
Sure.
personally always choose to have all the data, to
Yeah.
have at least double, like two confirmations on this story, and to double check and double check and double check and publish. Well, I mean, not whenever, but publish probably later than the rest of the industry. But the truth of the matter is that unfortunately, because of Google and because of social media and because of how sensitive our markets are, you try to be fast. And that sometimes leads to huge consequences. And again, I'm bringing Cointelegraph up. I'm sorry.
Mhm.
But I think everybody who is involved in crypto know about this story, and they have probably thought about this when you just asked this. Cointelegraph mistakenly published a tweet on their social media saying that the SEC, the US SEC, finally approved Bitcoin ETF, the first one in history. right? I think it was last year or the year ago. Oh my God, the date. So it was the time around the speculations. The SEC was definitely considering applications and looking into this, and everybody was waiting. Everybody was like, now today? No, not today. Like it was the most sensitive and anticipated topic around this in the crypto space. First, fully approved by the SEC Bitcoin ETF. We did it, guys. I don't know what we did, but we did it, guys, right? We're there. Like that was the gist and that was the vibe. But Cointelegraph published this tweet, and obviously the first couple of seconds, the excitement, but then hey, there is no official statement from the SEC or from a Bloomberg analyst who, like, the most prominent in terms of the SEC filings and announcements. So you kind of trust this guy to announce this news, and he's like, hey, I'm not hearing anything. Like, I'm double checking with my sources, but there's nothing. And so I think it was a matter of minutes, maybe a little bit less than an hour. And Cointelegraph comes up and is like, hey, I'm sorry, we made a mistake. We didn't have a source. Like, it was not confirmed. And the market is bleeding. Everything is down. It's a bloodbath. Everything is red. And it's like, because everybody was so excited, so eagerly waiting for this. And now we got this. And it was essentially a lie, right? It was a mistake. And so yeah, I'm getting emotional around this because this is a big deal. And there were so many liquidations over the course of the next 24 hours. And it was insane. And that's what a mistake like that could cause you. To be honest, I do think that our markets, by our, I mean crypto markets, are a bit too sensitive and it's not about do your own research, right? It's like think before you do. Yes, you're not going to get richer by $1 if you do this decision. Like if you do this, order, if you put this order or make this financial decision, you're probably going to be rich, but not that rich if you wait. I think that's what people think. That's what, like, I'm not going to get that rich. Like my buddy is going to get so rich off this news. So I'm going to do this. He did or she did. I'm going to do this as well. Or this news. It means something. I'm going to do this. I'm going to short it, or I'm going to be in a long position for a very long time. Or there's options if you're blah 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 stuff like that. So they are insane. All this idea about getting rich this fast and build a generational wealth. Well, and like everybody's obsessed with this, and that's why we're overly sensitive to this. I'm not blaming anyone. No. I think Cointelegraph knows how wrong they were about this, and they did issue an apology. They did publish an internal investigation on what happened, but that's the price of publishing something when markets are so sensitive. But I still think that accurate, verifiable information comes first, and that's what I'm going to bring up the block again. I'm not sure about their like official policy, but from what I observed, they may publish something a little bit later after everybody else did this, but they're sure as hell are gonna verify this. They're gonna have sources confirming or saying that this is not true. They're gonna have more information and numbers. They're gonna take their time and they're gonna do their job, and that's why I think it's more important that way. Yeah. But what wins in crypto journalism today depends on what you consider a win. If you're talking about traffic and potential advertisers of the day, whether it be meme coins or other shady projects, then yeah, traffic wins in that sense. But it's today they're winning, but what's going to happen with them tomorrow? Both with the projects like meme coins and one day scams and rug pulls and platforms that are advertising them. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So I think you better put your bet on trust.
Yeah, I love that. And I love how you framed it, in terms of how do you define win, right? It's also like, how do you define success? Wow. Catherine, thanks so much for sharing your perspectives and reminding us that in crypto, truth isn't always easy, but it's worth chasing, right? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having, and I'm sorry that I was talking for so long.
I loved it. Like, it was such a great, it was just so insightful, and yeah, I really thank you for taking the time and for sharing these stories, because people need to know that trust is always, it has to come first. Integrity has to come first, It's not easy. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you. If this episode got you thinking, subscribe, share it around, and remember, doing your own research starts with knowing who to trust.